the Football Corner podcast. I'm your host, Jeremiah Queen. And before we talk about some sad news that happened in the NFL this past week, I'd like for all my viewers out there on YouTube to hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you can stay up to date on the channel with all new podcast episodes and videos in general drop on the channel. If you're listening to me on a podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even Spotify, go subscribe to the podcast. And the tragic news that I'll be talking about early on, everybody knows about it. Aaron Rodgers got injured, is out for the season with a torn Achilles. It's it's frustrating if you're a football fan, as in myself. I was very disappointed when I watched what unfolded in that game. He only had 4 snaps on the first drive. And I heard that even a lot of fans didn't even get a chance to go into the stadium yet. I didn't even know what happened because of the weather. There was a weather warning, inclement weather, whatever you want to call it. It's upsetting because if you're a Jets fan, you're cursed. You feel cursed. You don't feel like you could be able to have anything good in life. Okay, they haven't been to the playoff. They haven't been to the playoffs since 2010. 2010. That is the longest active streak of not making the playoffs of the 4 major sports. We're talking baseball, basketball, hockey, and of course NFL football. The longest streak. The Kings had it and then the Kings made it to the playoffs last year. So now the Jets actually hold this. And then we could talk about what's going to happen in the future. We could talk about Aaron Rodgers' future. Aaron Rodgers will be 40 next year. If you're a Jets fan, you're like, well, he could come back, bounce back from the injury. It's just not that easy. You could bounce back from the injury, but quarterbacks in their 40s, if you're not Drew Brees, who even looked bad in the last 2 seasons of his career at the end of the season, or you're not Tom Brady, who just defy Father Time at every chance he could get, you're just not. Quarterbacks just don't have the ability to play at a high level in their 40s. Ask Warren Moon, ask Vinny Testaverde, players like that. And you're going to be like, what about Peyton Manning? Peyton Manning stopped playing around the age of 38. Phillip Rivers around the age of 38. Joe Montana was like 37. Most quarterbacks are already finished and retired by the time they reach the age of 38. Most quarterbacks don't play be a starting quarterback. There's a quarterbacks that actually been on a roster as a backup in their 40s, but as a starting quarterback for a franchise, most quarterbacks don't last long, and they don't play at a high level past the age of 40. Now you want to transition to what your current situation you're in right now with Zach Wilson. I think if you're Zach Wilson, you are happy not for what Aaron Rodgers happened to him, but you're happy that you get another chance to prove yourself that you could be a franchise quarterback, because you forget the Jets selected you 2nd overall in the 2021 NFL draft, and you have not lived up to what they thought you could do, hence why they traded for Aaron Rodgers and to be your replacement. And they wanted to trade you in the offseason, but there was just no market for you, so they just let you stay on the roster. It's a good thing they did, because then they would be playing a guy like Tim Boyle or something like that. All right? Zach Wilson, take the opportunity to seize the moment and become the Jets franchise quarterback and just play average, okay? You don't even have to be spectacular. That defense is really good. It's just amazing. You saw what he did to the top 3 quarterback in the NFL and Josh Allen, which I don't agree with that statement. But most people have Josh Allen as a top 3 quarterback. I call him Mr. Turnover Machine because he turns the ball over anytime he could do it. It's not like he's leading the league in interceptions since he entered the league, yada, yada, yada. Zach Wilson, that defense is really good. You have to play average just so you could be able to sustain this team to be able to have a postseason run. But it's unfortunate, Jets fans. The next 3 Zach Wilson opponents, Cowboys, who arguably have the best defenses in the NFL. You have the Chiefs, and you have the Patriots. And Zach Wilson's 0-4 against the Patriots and has a horrible passer rating against the team. I really am sorry for you, Jets. It didn't need to end this way, but guess what? You still have a legendary defense. You have a top 5 defense. Let's hope they can step into the challenge. 2 actually happens. There's 2 teams in particular, I think, that must-win teams in week 2. Now, you could say every team, the 16 teams that actually lost in week 1 actually need to, win next week, so they won't go 1-2. But like half of those teams, and even some of the teams that won, or not even they're pretenders. They're not even playoff teams. There's a lot of them that are out there. It's week one is like I previous episodes is overrated and stuff like that happens. But two teams who have high expectations for this season need wins in week two. Number one is the Bengals. And all you Bengals fans out there are going to say, we went 0-2 last year, so it really doesn't matter as much. You want to know what the difference is? Last year, you lost to the Steelers and the Cowboys. You only lost one division game, and the other game was out of conference, so those don't even count for ties or any tying scenarios. This week, you have to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 1-0 already, and you just lost to the Cleveland Browns. If you lose against the Baltimore Ravens, you will be 0-2 in the division. Not just 0-2 in general, but you be 0-2 in the division, which means all tiebreakers with the Browns or the Baltimore Ravens are out of the question. That means you have to outright beat them by record, which I don't see you doing that because I think the Ravens are going to be a hard team to stop going down to the end of going down the stretch when it comes down to playoff picture. Joe Burrow has to step up. So he got a new haircut, saying, after that performance I, did in week one, it's time for a new look. And I hope he brings something else to the table besides a new haircut because he was god awful. Okay? Only threw for about 86, 85 passing yards. Lowest passer rating of the weekend, lowest completion percentage of the weekend of week one. Joe Burrow and the Bengals need to step up and win in Baltimore. It's a must win if you plan on staying in this division because, like I said, you go into in the division, you could kiss the division crown goodbye. Even though I already have the Bengals going to the wild card seed, the Bengals like playing at home because they have a really good atmosphere in Cincinnati. So the Bengals need to win in week two. Second team will be the Denver Broncos. Everybody's like, well, the Broncos suck anyways. Those are one of those pretender teams. Well, for Russell Wilson, it means a lot. I think Sean Payton is going to be there for the long haul. Russell Wilson will still be getting paid if he got released by the Broncos because they owe him a lot of money. But for your legacy, Russell Wilson, you want to win in week two. And you get to play the Commanders. Don't lose to the Commanders. The Commanders have a good defense, but they nearly lost to the Cardinals, which is supposed to be arguably the worst team in football. And they're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. The Broncos need a win in week two because I think the Broncos should be competitive this season and should be at least contending for a playoff spot. Even if you don't get one, I didn't have them in my playoff picture, but even if you don't get a playoff spot, Broncos, you should look competent. Russell Wilson, you should show us that you can still play football at a high level. You played mediocre in week one against the Raiders. Unfortunately, Will Lutz, the kicker, missed the extra point, and, kickers do kicker things like they've been doing for the past 5 years. In important moments, you don't do the easy job, which is to kick a field goal or kick an extra point. It's not that hard. Broncos get the victory in week two against the Commanders. I don't want any excuses. I don't want anything. Even if Jerry Jeudy's out, your star tight end out, go win the game. You got a Hall of Fame head coach, Sean Payton, and Russell Wilson. If you call yourself a future Hall of Fame quarterback, show us in week two. It's 3 and 4 of my upsets in week one. I picked the Buccaneers to win over the Vikings, Lions over the Chiefs, and I also picked the Cleveland Browns to beat the Bengals, mainly because, the Browns own Joe Burrow, and I stand by it. It's obvious. But I did whiff on my Steelers over Niners pick. I only got 2 upsets this week. Only 2. Houston's favored by a 1.5 over the Colts. Also, the Colts play. The Colts, Anthony Richardson probably was the best rookie in week one. And he was just efficient all over the board, running the ball, passing, even though he did have an interception. But compared to Bryce Young, who had 3 interceptions, and C.J. Stroud, who had a fumble and other costly turnovers in a game against the Ravens, I think the Colts will beat the Houston Texans by, field goal-ish. I think it'll be a close game, but I do have the Colts winning that game because I just think the Colts are the better team. And I'm going to feel like it's going to look like I'm a homer for a second. But the Chiefs are favored over the Jags. I will be in Jacksonville. So we won't have an episode on Monday of the Football Corner podcast, but we'll have a vlog, other content coming out on YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe to it and click the notification bell so you could stay up to date to it. So you can be able to catch those videos and stuff like that. But yes, I do have the Jaguars beating the Chiefs. I think the Jaguars are a tough team and will be in the playoffs this season. And I think this will be the game that puts the Jaguars on the map across the country. And the Jaguars will start getting some respect they deserve in the NFL. If you made it this far into the video or episode, if you're listening to it on a podcast app, the Football Corner podcast will not have a episode on Monday. But it doesn't mean that you can't also, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, leave a like button on the video you're watching currently right now, and leave a comment what you think about the content and the takes I have given to you on this episode. But because I won't be doing an episode on Mondays because I'll be at the Chiefs-Jaguars game in Jacksonville, I will be vlogging. I will have some video content that will come out later on the channel and on my social media pages. So if you're not following my social media pages, like on Instagram at the Football Corner Podcast or TikTok, you won't be able to view the content. So go follow the pages so you'll be able to view the content. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for watching. See you next time.